The hardest hike for me, I had no gas left in my tank. I was done. I can do Ngong Hills to the summit and back in under 2 hours.
My first hike was actually on Ngong Hills. How did you start hiking?
I was about 17 years old. My father suffered from Alzheimer's. On the home front, this space was no longer a happy, safe space. I got tired of that, and that's why I said I needed something else.
You're 17 years old?
Yes.
You know there's something wrong with that. How does it manifest?
So it just became more.
You're the mountain slayer. You've taken people on Kilimanjaro. In Uganda, I've seen you've been on the highest peak.
Ruhi? Yes.
Where else in Africa? The Aberdares are difficult. And you woke up and you said to go.
But that wasn't the most difficult hike.
We did Elephant Hill. We died on Elephant Hill, but we made it. We got it to the summit. And you do this constantly. So what has the learning been for you?
What the mountains have done for me, one.
Welcome, Wandia, to the Nitpicker Podcast.
Thank you, Carol.
We'll just jump straight into it. You're the mountain slayer. Mm-hmm. Tell us about that name and what made you take that first step to becoming a mountain slayer.
So how did the name Mountain Slayer come about? Interesting. When I started hiking, I didn't imagine that I was going to get to where we currently are. I remember one time when I was sharing my hiking stories and adventures with a friend of mine about maybe 4 years into hiking. And she was just like, but Wandia, you're just moving from mountain to mountain and just slaying them. Aren't you just a mountain slayer? As simple as that. And it stuck. I was like, wow, I love that name. Because indeed, that's what it is that we do. We just move from mountain to mountain and slay them as we move along.
So who's the we in Mountain Slayers? What is this community about?
Okay, so I am the one who runs Mountain Slayers primarily on my own. However, over the years that I've been running it, we have developed and grown a community. And these are the people who hike with us, who trust us to curate their events, and who just allow us to be the ones that take them out into the outdoors and to different places within Kenya and around the world.
And you do this full-time?
I do it full-time, 50-50. Can I say full-time and half-time?
No, you can't. Pick a battle.
I do it full-time.
Yeah?
I do it full-time. I'm also a psychologist, so I just balance my schedule. So I'm hiking and I'm also a psychologist.
How did you start hiking?
Well, I grew up in a family that was pretty active. So I've always had the active gene within myself. My mom was active, my father was also active, and as I was growing up, I realized that my brother did something different that I didn't do. And in university, I realized that this guy actually leads expeditions to mountains. And I used to watch him. Organizing the camping equipment, portioning the food that they're going to carry, the tents and all those kind of things. And one time in 2012, when I got tired of just the usual mundane things that happen in Nairobi life, I asked my brother to take me on a trip. And he listened to me and he said, okay, fine, I'll take you on an excursion. So he called me up one day and told me, I'm going to take you to Ngong Hills.
Is this your older brother?
This is my older brother.
Uh-huh.
So he picked me up. It was himself and a friend of his, and we spent the entire day on Ngong Hills. For those who know me, they know I can do Ngong Hills to the summit and back in under 2 hours hiking, and to the other side, Konabaridi, and back in 4 hours and done. Meaning that spending the whole day on Ngong Hills, what exactly were we doing? So my brother spent the time to connect with his friend, and they pretty much left me to my own devices. So they'd walk, stop, have some snacks, and I'd just sit down and look at nature. What I didn't know at that particular point in time is that it was allowing me to just be within myself and to process my thoughts and to just be. So spending that entire time in Ngong Hills for about maybe 6-7 hours, by the time I was done and I went home, I felt like I had gotten a new lease of life. It's like whatever it is that I had been carrying was gone. And I knew I found my new thing. I wanted to hike again. So I called my brother like the following week and I said, okay, so what time are you picking me up on Saturday? And he's like, hey, it's not like that. It's not an every weekend kind of thing. This is once in a while. But because he's my elder brother, he told me, don't worry, I'll figure something out for you. And he did. So he connected me to a community that lives in Ngong Hills. And I would drive from Kilimani to Ngong Hills every Saturday to join them for a maybe 8-kilometer hike. I'd be there by 6 o'clock and would do it without fail. That is what I did relentlessly for about a couple of months before people started joining me. I had a friend who joined me because they realized that I'm not available anymore for our Friday hangouts. And they're like, Wandia, what are you up to? I said, I have to sleep early because tomorrow I have to be on Ngong Hills.
So it affected your social life?
It affected my social
But
life.
positively?
Well, positively, if you ask me.
Yeah.
So my friend joined me and she also loved it. And then as we're doing Ngong Hills, remember there's already a community that exists that was doing this. We found two gentlemen who were always running Ngong Hills. As guys were walking, them would run. Same path. So we'd meet at the summit and we'd have conversation and say, next Saturday, same time, next Saturday, same time. And this went on for almost a year and got to the point like, we've been doing this repetitively for a year. What else can we do? And they said, okay, why don't we try something else? Let's go to another mountain, another hill. Now, from the top of Ngong Hills, where the windmills are, in the distance, you can see Mount Suswa and you can also see Longonot. So I thought the natural choice would be Mount Longonot. But these guys were like, no. Let's try something different. Let's go to Mount Suswa. So like, okay, let's organize it. And they turn around and say, Wandia, organize this. I was like, okay, why not? Of course, I had no idea how to organize anything. How do we get there? How do we navigate the space in Mount Suswa? But I'm always up for a challenge. And I said, no problem, I'll organize it. And I did. So that first excursion, it was a friend of a friend, come with your wife, come with your girlfriend. And we ended up being 2 Land Cruisers. That's about 12 people. It was a success. I was able to organize the community guides. I was able to organize everything. Everything went fantastic. And at the end of the day, the guys were like, this was a fantastic time spent in nature. So where are we going next month, Wandia? Come up with something and let us know. And that's just how it began. So I had to think ahead of the people. And I came up with a calendar of hikes that we would do for the rest of the year. And by and large, we've grown through referral.
And at the same time, you're also studying psychology.
Yes.
How did you link that to your mountain? Because you found peace. And what I heard you say is that on Ngong Hills, your first visit to the Ngong Hills was just a Zen level that you got.
Yes.
You then thought about linking that to psychology. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Maybe I need to take a step back and also help you understand what the desire was for me when I was saying I was looking for something beyond the usual Nairobi life. And this is based on the family background. So I grew up in a family which, like most families, are dysfunctional. Now, as a practicing psychologist, I can tell you with conviction that majority of the families are dysfunctional.
Would you say then dysfunction is actually normal? It's not the abnormal.
Therefore, then, that is what it is.
Yes.
So dysfunction is what the normal is.
Yes.
So the dysfunction within my family is that my father suffered from Alzheimer's. And it's a long-term illness that drags on for very many years. By the time my father was passing away, which was 18 years into that journey, we had been battling it for very long. So what that means is that the family unit has to kind of like change structure to be able to support this particular illness. And because we didn't understand what was going on.
How old were you when you was diagnosed?
How old was I now looking back, I could have been in Form 3.
Yeah.
When I look back and try to piece where did things start going wrong, I was in Form 3, which is about 17? Yeah. I was about 17 years old. But I only discovered what it was when I went to study psychology much later. Yeah, so we're groping in the dark. And as you're groping in the dark, that means we are using faulty ways to cope because we don't know what's going on.
How does it manifest? So for somebody who doesn't know how Alzheimer's manifests, you're 17 years old.
Yes.
You know there's something wrong with dad.
Yes.
How does it manifest?
So you don't really know something is wrong with dad. My father was a typical authoritarian father.
Yeah.
So he speaks, he directs, and you do.
Yeah.
There is no room for having conversation. So he just became more stern. So I just thought that was just another side of his character. So we didn't pay it much mind. And when you would sit with your friends, the stories would be like, when your father walks in, you take off. You know, you're not in the sitting room and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So that was what it was, but we didn't know something else was going on in the background. So then the faulty coping mechanisms is the partying and hanging and all those kind of things. On the home front, everybody was going out and doing their own thing because this space was no longer a happy, safe space. So then I got tired of that, and that's why I said I needed something else. So I looked my brother for, you're the guy who looks like you do something beyond this hanging that me and my sister are doing. So what is this thing? And that's how I went to Ngong Hills. And that piece I'm talking about, and the connection with self and being with my thoughts and connecting with God, it was because I was carrying that. So I just felt unburdened, and I felt, this is what I've been looking for. The hanging is not doing it. I mean, it's good, but it's not doing it. So the outdoors gave me that. Yes. And another piece to this story is that as I started being intentional with planning the hikes for the year, I started drawing in people who had similar energy to myself, which is very interesting. So at that the initial years of Mountain Slayers, many of the people who are being drawn in were people who are going through challenging times in their lives. So it was a safe space for us to support each other. We didn't know that's what we're doing.
Exactly.
But that's exactly what we're doing in our conversations, in being out in nature, in challenging ourselves, and realizing as we're challenging ourselves in nature, then whatever it is left in Nairobi, can go and handle it. So that is the linkage. And I know you asked me, how did I get into psychology? So I hope now I've connected it.
You have, but just before we go into that, I think there's something that very important that you're saying, because I started hiking in 2020 just after COVID, or just during COVID and everything, and my first hike was actually on Ngong Hills. And what I have found, it's interesting that you're saying your hiking community attracted people who are in the same headspace. What I have found with hiking is that for 4 or 5 glorious hours, you're concentrating on putting one foot in front of the other, not tripping, not falling, stopping, looking at wide vistas that you do not see in the city. And the air is clean beyond, and you don't realize that you've got filthy air until you're up there.
That's correct.
And there's something, I don't want to say healing, but just being able to completely block out what's going on is, I would say, almost addictive. And I'm assuming that is what your other hikers were finding. You're saying there was a community of, because everyone's got stress. Masaibu ya Wakenya ni wengi. Tuko wengi.
Yes.
So I guess it's that attraction of, I'm able to come and completely blank out what's going on in my life.
Correct. And the interesting thing around that is that when people come there, they come as the person there that day. They don't come with their titles. They don't come with, So you just come as you are.
Yes.
Which I think is also very refreshing for adults. That I'm just here as Wandia. I'm just here as Carol. The things that I do in Nairobi doesn't count here. It's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
We're just trying to walk. And when I'm talking about the community, the conversations were not as we are struggling. When you're hiking, nothing else matters apart from catching your breath and making to the point that you're going to go to.
100%.
So all your problems aside.
Yeah.
And as you're saying, the beauty that is out there, I mean, anybody who doubts that God exists just needs to spend time in nature.
That's right.
That's it. Just spend time in nature and tell me.
And not far, like 1 hour from Nairobi, not far, to see nature in its total glory.
Correct.
So for somebody who doesn't hike, maybe you need to give perspective of how high are the Ngong Hills? Is it 2,000?
2,560. And Nairobi is 1,700 to 1,800, depending on where you stay.
So there's quite a high elevation.
Yep.
And then Ngong Hills, I came to discover that the word Ngong means fist. That's what I was, it means, it's a Maasai word for fist. So it looks like that. So it's seven summits.
Yes.
So it's a tough one.
Actually, people underestimate the difficulty of Ngong Hills. It's one of those which is so easy to access and can give you an extremely good challenge. People underestimate it.
Yeah. And it's long because you start at Konang all the way to Ngong Town. And Konang you get from Ongata, Rongai, and you hike all the way to Ngong Town.
Correct. Okay. So it's about, if you're doing the back and forth, about 24 kilometers, then about 27 kilometers.
Constant.
Yes. Yeah. It didn't get boring. The question you asked me, did it get boring? No. It's because you're just trying to see, I was trying to see at that point in time, how much faster can I do it? How much faster can I do it? Yeah. so that it didn't get boring. It was always a challenge. Can I do it faster? Yeah.
And so how do you move to psychology then from that?
Okay, so now again, I think I like looking for answers. I didn't set out to be a psychologist. When I was growing up, I wanted to be a lawyer because my innate desire was to help people. So when I finished my Form 4 and I was called to the university, unfortunately, my father said, no daughter of mine is going into public university. So we had a standoff for maybe about 2 months.
Where did he want you to go?
USIU.
Okay.
And I was certain in my head I was not going to go to USIU because my older sister was there. And I'm like, nope, I want to be on my own. I want to start my own journey. So I stayed at home. Eventually, he convinced me to speak to an uncle of mine. And he said, don't worry, first degree just means that you can read. So you just go where it is that your father is telling you to go, and then you can do your law later. So I ended up studying sociology and economics at Catholic University. And I was just doing it to get the degree. And once I was done, I got into marketing and I worked in that space for a while, a bit of customer service. And then I got stuck. In the organization I was in, I got stuck. I was like at the ceiling of customer service. So I was trying to figure out what next, looking for jobs, applying for jobs, not getting anywhere. So I said, let me go back to school. And my family was supportive enough to allow me to go back to school.
And how's your dad's?
He's still there deteriorating, but we have no idea what's going on. It's just like this guy is just becoming more and more difficult. So we really didn't know what was going on with him.
Yeah.
So my first option was to do HR. But at that point, there was no degree for HR locally. And I was not going to spend 2 years to get a diploma when I could get a master's in something which is similar.
Yeah.
That's how I ended up in a psychology class. I didn't plan to be there,
Okay.
but it was in line with still working with people.
Yeah.
And when I went into that psychology class, bingo, my eyes opened. I was like, this is what is ailing us at home. This is what my father is struggling with. So I immediately spoke to my mom and I said, you guys provide a platform for us to have a conversation with one of my lecturers. And my lecturer came and had a conversation and helped us understand this is what has been going on. So I was in that class, I guess, to find answers for my family. And that is where the journey began of now understanding and healing and looking for answers. Because, the unfortunate or fortunate thing about Alzheimer's is that the person who's ailing is actually very okay because they are caving into their world and they're fine. The people who struggle are the caregivers. So now it was us, my mom, my siblings, how do we support my dad and ourselves through this journey? That's how I got into psychology.
And how have you moved that? Because you've now combined that with your mountain slaying.
Yes. So I am a wellness practitioner. That's actually how I brand myself nowadays. Because everything that I do is about helping people to become the best versions of themselves. And not everybody is a hiker. Some people will come and have that conversation with me in the office. And other people will have those conversations outdoors. And maybe not even necessarily conversations, but they just need that space to find their own answers. And that's what it is. So for those people who need to have a conversation, then we'll have it as we're hiking. Because it's easier for people to be more authentic. And they know once they're done with this hike, they won't see Wandia for another month or 2 months until they sign up. So they've just come, like, it's almost like speaking to a stranger, and you're done, and you go. And because I've been trained in this space, I know how to ask the questions that can help you get any answers that you're looking for.
And you're asking as you're walking along the trail?
Absolutely. I'm usually at the back. Yeah. I'm usually with the person who needs most support.
Yeah.
And because I've been trained to ask questions, and people like speaking about themselves and talking about themselves. So I just started engaging them. And sure enough, we'll get to a space where there's something that they're trying to figure out. Not necessarily struggling with, but they're trying to figure out. And I just ask the questions that help them look at it from a different perspective. And that's it. For those who are able to unlock it that way, that's how it goes. So that's how I marry the two.
Yeah.
To be a bit more intentional, I also have clients who don't want necessarily to hike, but they wouldn't mind having a therapeutic walk with me. So then I do walks with them in Karura. Yeah. So we do like an hour and have a conversation. So that's how I marry the two.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So Wandia, mountains are powerful metaphors for life's challenges. How has climbing them, because you said you've now climbed quite a number, and we'll talk about that. So how has climbing the mountains built up your resilience and your mental well-being? And the reason I ask this is, I told you we started hiking in 2020 with a group of friends, and I've watched you, I've seen your pictures, I've seen you doing crazy mountains. We did Elephant Hill in August, and like I told you, you know, the people who say there's no hill I don't want to die on. Us, we went and we died on Elephant Hill. Mm-hmm. It's for death. It's the worst thing on God's earth. But we made it. We got it to the summit. And you do this constantly. And so what has the learning been for you in terms of resilience and mental well-being?
Okay, for my personal journey, what the mountains have done for me, one, I have learned to ask for help. That's the first thing. I've learned to ask for help. There's nothing new under the sun. And in the hiking space, I mean, my journey of how I eventually got certified as a wilderness first responder, I didn't intentionally start to become certified in that space. It's just because something happened in the outdoors. So I had to go and learn from experts. How do I support people in the outdoors in a safe way? So I learned very early that it's a strength to be able to ask for help when you're struggling. That's what the mountains have shown me. That's the first thing. The other thing is that it shows you that you are actually more capable than you imagine yourself to be. That is what the mountains have shown me, that I am much more resilient than I imagined myself to be. The different mountains that have broken me on my journey have been very many. They have broken me, but I still go back to them. Just to, I can see you want to ask me why.
Which one? And why? And which one? Like which one? Because you did the most crazy one. I follow this guy on Twitter, Kiprono Letting, and he created this trail, Chamuhimu hike.
Yes.
Which is traversing the Aberdares. And for somebody who's not a hiker, the Aberdares are, I believe, where God goes to rest on Sundays, because they're the most stunning range of mountains in this country. And the most northern tip is at Nyahururu, the most southern tip is somewhere in Lari, and the Chamuhimu Trail is literally traversing these from the northernmost tip to the southernmost tip.
Correct.
And you woke up and you decided to go, knowing how difficult it is. You went, maybe you talk a little bit about that.
But that wasn't the most difficult hike.
That wasn't the most.
No, but I can talk about it.
Sure.
The Chamuhimu Trail is 90 kilometers in 4 days and covering 5-6 summits of the Aberdares.
And what height above sea level? On average, it's...
The highest point is 4,001 meters.
That's what Satima height?
That's Satima, Mount Satima. Okay. But generally, you're playing around 3,800, 3,500 to 4,000.
And just for context, Ngong is at 2,000?
500.
Okay, so this is Ngong plus half a kilometer on top.
Yes. So every day you're doing 15 kilometers, 30 kilometers. The reason I say it wasn't the hardest, one is because the weather was fantastic.
Okay.
We did it at a time where there was no rain. And the Aberdares, there's always rain.
Permanently.
So it was dry.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. The other thing is that I had come out of a season where I had not hiked for a long time. So I was itching to get back into the outdoors. So that's what that gave me. So it wasn't the hardest thing. I was looking forward to it. The hardest hike for me, this is the hardest hike. Like the first time I went to Mount Kilimanjaro, man, that thing, can I say kicked my ass?
Yes, you can.
So it kicked my ass.
Yes.
But when I was preparing to go to Mount Kilimanjaro, my brother had told me, your father got to Gilman's Point, which is the second highest point before you get to Uhuru Peak. He told me, your father got to Gilman's Point, so you can only get to Uhuru Peak. Basically, he told me, you have to summit. You have no option, you have to summit. By the time I was getting to Gilman's Point, I was done. I had no gas left in my tank.
Is it a physical challenge? Is it a mental challenge? Is it that altitude sickness? What is the difficulty? Because I hear people saying, don't do Kilimanjaro. Me, for sure, I can't. No. Where is the difficulty?
So but it's the first time that I was experiencing that level of altitude. That is one. So
how high? What's the height at that point?
Gilman's is 5,600. So you're already pretty
In
high
the
up there.
clouds.
Yeah,
That's 5.6 kilometers from sea level, above sea level.
Yes.
5,600 meters is 5.6 kilometers.
Correct.
Yes. So it's high.
So it is extremely high.
Yes.
So it was the first time my body was being exposed to something of that nature. And remember, we've been walking for 4 or 5 days, increasing the, the altitude. So I was exhausted. I was exhausted physically. I was exhausted mentally as well, because I remember my dad was still unwell. So I was carrying a lot. And I always say, sorry, I'm going to just give my story. Depending on how you're coming to the mountain, if you're coming carrying baggage, it's going to show up on the mountain. It will show up on the mountain. If you're coming from a space of joy and happiness, it will also show up on the mountain.
That's interesting. How so?
The mountain has a way of bringing you to your most basic self. It reveals your true self, your true nature. Mountains reveal your true nature. So if you want to know somebody, take them on.
The reason I'm laughing is that when we did Elephant Hill, I'll keep going back to Elephant Hill because of all the mountains that we've done, that was the hardest for me. And there's a point called Desperado. So before I'd only got to Desperado because I was a novice hiker. Yeah. But this time now we went past Desperado. Between Desperado, there's the beginning of the top is called the tail.
Yes.
And my hiking pals, some of whom are here, know that by the time we were getting to the tail, I was speaking in a lot of French expletives, and asking who the flip organized this hike, because it's the most dumbest hike I've ever been. And God was like, yo, it was you, Carol. Oh. So you're angry at yourself. You're having conversations. What brought me here? I left a bed voluntarily in the morning, a warm bed, to come and nangana with these stones and this ascent. Your thighs are shaking, your calves are shaking. But a lot of it is it's just here. You can get over the physical,
yes,
but it's just here that, telling your mind, no, you can do it. Just get to that. Yeah. It's a conversation here.
Yeah.
So I can imagine what you're saying is that it's conversations with yourself.
So I have been pushed to the limit, but I remember my brother's words. Dad got to Gilman's. You must get to Uhuru. So I dug deep. And I dug deep.
How deep?
I don't even know how deep. I dug very deep. In fact, I had shared that particular snippet with one of my hikers. And I told her, when you see me trying to give up, please remember this is a story. So when she saw I was going to give up, she said, remember, your dad, we have to keep moving one day. And she didn't tell it to me like we could bargain. It's a matter of fact. Your dad got to Gilman's.
How old was your dad when he got to Gilman's?
Wow, I wish I could be able to give you that, but I don't.
Did he do it when you guys were born, or in
before
younger days? Oh, okay.
Before, yeah.
So you're about the same age as you were, maybe.
Yes, possibly, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I had to dig deep, and I got there. I mean, the photos, my first summit photos of Mount Kilimanjaro, you can see the grimace on my face at the summit. There's no smiling. No smiling at all.
I'm here. I've got the pictures. Take the pictures, and I just want to get off
the mountain.
Yeah.
But of course, I went back to just confirm. Is this thing that hard, or was it? I was there and
so you did it again.
Of course, I had to do it again, and not only just again, but again and again. I've done it very many times now. So I've done it for myself, and I've done it when I'm leading expeditions, and there's a difference. When Wandia is doing it for herself, then I move at my pace, and I'm just moving how I want to move. When I'm guiding a team, I'm always at the back. So I don't always summit. If some people don't summit, then I'm always with the weakest person. That's how it goes. Yeah. So there's a difference, whether I'm going as an expedition leader or I'm going as Wandia. So I've repeated and gone back again, and I've seen it's not that hard. As long as you're physically prepared, mentally prepared, and emotionally prepared.
And that's what people don't know. So what do you mean by mental preparation and emotional? Because I see people going, if we're doing Kilimanjaro, we have to do Suswa, then we have to do Longonot, then we have to do Mount Kenya, then we'll do Kilimanjaro. So I see a lot of physical preparation.
Yes.
What is emotional and mental preparation?
Okay, so that's the difference with working with a mountain psychologist.
Yeah.
So on the 12-week program that I'll take you through to get you to Mount Kenya, Mount Kilimanjaro, we'll be having conversations. One, I'll be checking to see how you're doing physically. I'll also check to see if you're gearing up, and also check to see how you're doing emotionally. Many times people have got a reason why they're doing a mountain. Could be just bucket list. I want to tick this off, or maybe there's a significant turning point in their life. But remember, we have got 12 weeks together. In those 12 weeks, the layers are going to peel off, and we'll get to understand what your real motivation is for whatever it is that you're doing. Not necessarily the mountain, but motivation in life.
So where are we doing this? Are we doing this as we walk in Karura, or as I come to your office, or as we go on other hikes?
We are doing it on a one-on-one check-in, either phone call or a Zoom call.
Okay.
Because it is one-on-one, it's confidential. So I just want to see how you're doing, where you're struggling. Are you looking forward to the mountain? And what's going on with your family? Because we wear very many different hats. So we're going to find out. So when I'm talking about mental preparation, is to also help you unblock things that could be burdening you. So it's not the traditional therapy, but we're doing a bit of that. And it's a safe space. Whatever we're discussing remains just between the two of us. And even as we do finally undertake that journey, I know how to challenge you, how to motivate you when I see that you're getting stuck or you're getting overwhelmed. So that's what it is. I remember one particular, if you'll allow me, trip that I took some people up Mount Kilimanjaro. Because they had been hiking with me for many years, I didn't necessarily have my pulse on what was ailing them at that particular point in time. Just 3 people. That was the hardest, most draining mountain I have been on, because they were carrying so much emotional weight. And because I'm an empath and the conversations that we're having, I sucked it all in. Oh. So by the time we were done with the mountain, it was not the mountain that I was done with. But my clients were happy, which is what my clients were happy.
So it's the conversations that they hold as they're going
It's the conversations that we're having as we're going. Because I want it also to be more than just a bucket list item.
Yes.
I want you to also, if there's something you're dealing with, unpack it and come out reborn, if possible.
So you've taken people on Kilimanjaro.
Yes.
You've taken them in Uganda. I've seen you've been on the highest peak,
Ruwenzori. Yes.
Where else in Africa have you done?
So in Africa, so you've done the East Africa, because that also takes care of Elgon. So where else?
And Mount Kenya.
And Mount Kenya, of course. Yes. There's Mount Toubkal in Morocco. And there's also Drakensberg in Lesotho that I have taken people to. And also in Uganda, the Virungas, the home of the gorillas.
Yeah.
They've got some challenging peaks there, some 3 peaks, the Muhabura, Sabinho, and one other that I'm forgetting. A challenging set of hills which pales in comparison to our Abadeas. So if you're looking for a challenge, let's go.
No, I'm not looking for a challenge. I'm very, very happy today. I told you I died on the hill. I died on Elephant Hill. No desire.
But here you are. So those are the ones that we have done so far.
And these are snow-capped. Are they snow-capped?
No, they're not snow-capped.
Okay.
They're lower
than. But Ruwenzori are snow-capped.
Ruwenzori, yes, is snow-capped.
So why are these Virunga ones challenging? Is it the incline?
The incline is insane. And how they have managed those inclines is by putting ladders. So you're going up ladders. And then you have to come down ladders, eh? So you don't know you're coming in reverse. No, it's actually, you just have to figure out a way to walk around there.
But yes, if you're distracted.
If you're distracted, yes, but highly unlikely you're going to be distracted when you're on a ladder.
And that's what I say. The good thing about hiking is you are so laser focused.
Correct.
Laser focused on your safety.
Correct.
You can't think about anything else.
Correct.
It's a delightful way to de-stress.
It is. Yeah. Fantastic way. It gives you another new lease of life. Energy abounds once you come from a hike. Yeah.
So you've built mountain slayers. You're helping people experience the outdoors and to heal in nature. Mm-hmm. You've taken people from Ngong Hills to the 8th wonder of the world, Machu Picchu. Yeah. It is a 15th century wonder built in Peru. Mm-hmm. I mean, what have you learned about people, as you've taken them across? And you talked about, it was difficult when your clients download on the mountain. Mm-hmm. But it's a huge journey across the world. Maybe talk a little bit about that. What have you learned about people, about building a business that's global now? When they say global in scope, what have you learned?
That I truly love helping people achieve whatever dream and goal they have, whatever it is that they desire. So I love the hand holding. I love providing solutions. So it's not work. It's work, but it's not work. I enjoy looking for solutions. You want us to go to Peru? This is how we're going to figure it out and do that. What does it tell me about people? People are just people. People are people. You just take them where they are. That's what it is. I think that answers the question.
What does that mean? People are people. Take them the way they are. You're being very polite. If I'm watching this, I'm like, okay, what do you mean? Because
people are people. I mean, how do I put it? A person will reveal themselves to you for who they are if you listen. Many times don't listen. I think, is it Maya Angelou who said that?
When somebody shows you who they are, believe them.
And they do.
Yeah.
And they show you and they tell you. So it's up to you to believe them or not. So once I've understood who you are and how you operate, then I will just ensure that I meet your needs based on your expectations.
Have you ever had a client who's had an epiphany on a hike, an epiphany on a mountain, and changed completely as a result of that experience?
Changed completely? Well, I've had people come back to me now, maybe years later, maybe months later, and thanked me for walking a journey with them. Sometimes I don't specifically know what it is that they are going on about, but I'll talk about one particular person who ended up being the president of one of the Rotary chapters. And she said that if she hadn't been given the space to do what she did within Mountain Slayers and climb the mountains, she'd never have gone for what she eventually went for.
So back to the metaphor. It's a metaphor for surmounting challenges.
Correct. So she came back a couple of years later and just thanked me and said, one day you don't know, but thank you. This is what you're able to do for me. So yeah. Wow. Of course, I've also had others. There's a particular client who also came back to me later and said, based on the conversations that we had, I went back and I was able to work on my relationships and restore some very dear relationships. And at that point in time, I didn't know. We're just having conversation. But he said, thank you. He came back and said, thank you.
Wow, you got some clarity.
Yeah, wow. Yeah.
Africa, you said Morocco, Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, Lesotho, Peru, Tour de Mont Blanc, is it, in Switzerland?
So it traverses, so I've done the Swiss Alps on its own.
Yeah.
And the story about how we got to the Swiss Alps, can I also share that story? How we got to the Swiss Alps was that after doing Mount Kenya, Mount Kilimanjaro, Mount Elgon, Mount Meru, then I said, okay, so the next destination is going to be the Ruwenzoris. So I put the package together and my team, the clients, looked at it. And these guys had been walking with me, doing all the mountains. And the price point was coming to total, everything, maybe about $2,000, inclusive flights, everything. And they said, Wandia, with $2,000, we can't leave Africa. I think we can leave Africa. They said, okay, where do you want to go? Take us to your dream destination. And that was it. So then I went back and I knew I wanted to go to Switzerland. I had always wanted to go to the Swiss Alps. And that's how we ended up going to Swiss Alps.
How many were you?
We were 10. 10 hikers.
So you went back?
So I went back, did the homework, did the research, figured out how to get us to the Swiss Alps, and we went to the Swiss Alps. So that was the first part of the hiking that we did in Europe. The one you're talking about now, the Tour de Mont Blanc, goes across 3 countries. That is Italy, France, and Switzerland. So the full trail takes about 11 days. And the beauty about hiking out of Africa, this is what I have chosen to do for my hikers, is that I think we suffer enough within Kenya. And so when I'm taking you out, I'm going to look for as much comfort as I can. So the Swiss Alps and Tour de Mont Blanc is pretty easy to do in the sense that all you need to have is your hiking bag on your back, and you're moving from hiking village to hiking village where you get to a chalet, you've got your shower, you've got a bed, you've got your food. So it's beautiful. And then I also choose to take people there during favorable weather. So you're hiking in your shorts and stuff like that. So hiking out of Kenya for me and the mountain slayers is a treat. Once you've done these hard things, now let's go and do the nice things in life. So
the bags are taken separately. So I just go with my hiking gear. That's it.
Yes, you're just going with your hiking. And remember, it's on your back. So you also learn to be very minimalist. So you don't want to be more than 5 kilos on your back.
Yeah.
And at least you can be able to get water along the way. So as long as you've got your hiking shorts and maybe 2 t-shirts, what else do you need?
And what's the altitude?
Doesn't even get to 2,300.
So even
Where
less
we're
than
going.
Ngong Hills.
It's less than Ngong
In
Hills.
terms of height.
Yeah.
But you're in the
You're
Alps.
within the Alps. You're at the bottom. You're traversing at the bottom. To do the highest point, which is Mont Blanc, that's a technical climb. So that needs now special skills, special permits, special training. So, and it's a bit pricier to do as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is it very, very expensive? Is that something that somebody can reasonably save in their bucket list and say, I want to do this?
To do what, Mont Blanc, or to do
The Tour de Mont Blanc.
It's very accessible. You see the comparison between doing the Ruenzoris. And I'm not saying that people should not do the Ruenzoris. They must do the Ruenzoris.
Yes, yeah.
It's about the same, about 2,300 to be able to do that. Yeah.
Wandia, what's next for the community in 2025?
So 2025 is my year of intentional interaction, intentional movement, just in being intentional. And to that end, I have launched the Mountain Slayers community. So anybody who wants to be part of that community, there's a subscription that people are paying, and I'm helping them understand how I do what I do. Because many times people just imagine that I wake up and I hike. There's a lot of work that goes on in the background. I'm committed and dedicated to my fitness journey. And I also try and watch what I eat, meaning I look at it and then I eat it. But so I'm taking people on that journey to just know that you don't just come from your bed to the mountain. You have to be intentional with your movement to be able to enjoy. Because for me, I don't get joy in struggling when you're hiking. Do something in the back and then start. So this is my year of intention.
Does your mom have anything to do with it? She's a prolific golfer in her 70s.
Wow. So my mom, yes, she's a prolific golfer, and she has represented the Kenya team for about 8 years.
Wow. The Kenya golf team.
Kenya golf team. She has been featured, and she's even a OGW.
What is OGW?
Order of the Golden
Warrior.
Yes.
Oh, as in the national.
Yes.
Okay.
She actually got that
award,
during the past regime, past Kibaki's time.
Yeah.
Because of how she has represented her country. So growing up in a family that was very active, you know, I keep telling people that what you pour into your children, they may resist at that particular point in time. But as they're going through life, you tend to go back to factory settings.
Yes, you do.
So for me, factory settings, one is just activity. When things are very difficult, I will look for, I need to walk, I need to run, I need to hike, I need to do something. So watching my mom remain active to this day, I don't have any choice but to be active.
Yeah.
And my dad, even as he lost his mind and his body was degenerating, he walked until his body was unable to walk. I mean, he walked throughout to the point where we had to be so careful with his care. I mean, you have to keep the gate locked because this guy is just walking all over the place.
Yeah.
He walked throughout. So I grew up in a family that was active. So for me, I mean, hiking, I have to be active. So, and it's not just hiking, it's everything else around it. It's either you're walking, you're running, you're swimming, you're cycling, everything, anything active.
So if we want to join the community, we just sign up?
Just sign up.
Yeah.
Yes, just sign up and we'll be happy to have you as part of our community.
Excellent.
And we also curate experiences, so you really don't have to join the community.
Yes.
We can also do that for you on the site.
We know, we've experienced your curation. It was excellent. So Wandia, at the Nitpicker Podcast, we do something towards the end.
Okay.
We're getting towards the end, and we call it Nitpicks on the Quick. These are about 10 questions, and we just want you to answer with what comes to mind.
Right.
So don't sugarcoat it, just whatever comes to mind first, so we can get to know Wandia.
Okay, let's go.
So, early riser or sleep in on weekends?
Early riser.
Text or phone call?
Text.
Cooking a meal or ordering takeout?
Cooking.
Yeah. Mountains or the beach? Although that's kind of like an obvious question.
The balance. I just love being outdoors. But yes, the mountain.
You also do triathlon.
I
You're
do.
a triathlete,
Yes.
So you do like the beach.
I do like the beach.
How many have you done?
I've just done 2.
Where?
Diani, the Shuja 113 triathlon.
What does that entail? It's running, biking,
Swim.
you swim in the ocean.
You swim in the ocean. Depending on the level that whatever you've registered for, you swim, and then you cycle, and then you run. So I've done a sprint, which is 750 in the ocean, and then
750
meters in the ocean, and then a 20-kilometer cycle, and then a 5-kilometer run. That was my first one in 2023. And then because I kind of like aced it, I got an ego, and I just said, I can level up. So I signed up for the Olympic. So last year I did the 1.5 kilometer swim in the ocean. I did a 40-kilometer cycle and a 10-kilometer run, and that thing kicked my tumbled me.
Wow. Was that in Kenya as well?
Yes, in Diani. Wow. But I'm doing it again just to find out how come I didn't do it right the first time around. I'm going to try and see.
Travel back in time or fast forward your life?
I think back in time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You sighed loudly. There's some things you want to fix in the back?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not fix, actually. No, not fixing.
Okay.
Not fixing. But possibly to go back and have a conversation with my father. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. No fixing.
My father passed away in 2007, and now in my 50s, there's so many things that he used to say that didn't make sense then, but now I'm like, I wanted to sit down and talk with him.
Correct.
You know, Luther Vandross had that song, Dance with My Father. For me, I just want to converse with him.
Yes. Yeah?
With the wisdom of old age.
Yeah. Yeah.
Favorite Kenyan dish?
Chips. Is that Kenyan dish?
Chips is, because of with dirty oil. One thing you always carry with you?
Lip balm.
What's your go-to stress reliever?
Go-to stress reliever. One.
What? Shoot your shot.
God, activity.
So prayer and activity. And sometimes combining the two.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
What's the most inspiring place you visited?
Most inspiring. Inspiring how?
It inspired you. It left you going, wow. You know that feeling you got when you did your first hike with your brother on the mountain, on Ngong Hills? You were totally inspired to kickstart this hiking journey. So what's the most inspiring place? It could be that. It could be a place that you visited and you're like, wow.
I don't know. Is this inspiring the same as breathtaking? No, it's not. But I just love the Swiss Alps.
Okay.
And for me, that just showed me the endless possibilities that exist for myself and mountain slayers. Yeah.
Okay. Read the book or watch the movie?
Book.
Favorite book?
Relationship Principles of Jesus.
Yeah.
By Tom Holland. Game changer.
For you?
Yeah.
Okay. Wandia, you've been a superb guest. We've loved having you and sharing your very inspiring story. And we look forward to having you on the Nitpicker Podcast once again. Once you've crossed and traversed into Asia, in some strange mountain in Asia and/or Australia, because you've done 3 continents now.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Karibu sana.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
What an adventure that was. Whoa, Wandia's journey of conquering mountains wasn't just about the peaks. It was about healing, overcoming life's toughest challenges, and building a stronger sense of community. Her story reminds us that we all carry really heavy loads, and sometimes it's the steepest climbs that help us lighten them and discover a strength that we didn't know we had. We hope you've been inspired to find your own paths to healing and growth, and maybe climb a mountain or 2. Don't joke with that. Don't forget to comment, like, share, and subscribe for more incredible stories of incredible people doing really incredible things.